Models of Intervention in Clinical Social Work Practice. Chapter 6. Family Emotional Systems Theory and Bowenian Therapy. Bowen Family Systems Therapy. A short explanation. Family systems theory has thrived as an influential and widely used theory of family assessment and intervention. The theory provides a comprehensive conceptual framework for understanding how emotional ties within families of origin, including extended family members, influence the lives of individuals in ways they often fail to appreciate and may tend to minimize. The theory is sometimes called family emotional systems theory to underscore this point and to distinguish it from the generic family systems term. Bowen asserted that the nature of healthy human functioning includes one's acquisition of a balance between emotional and rational life. The concept of differentiation characterizes one's ability to achieve this balance. Differentiation is made possible by a facilitative family environment in which the person can establish an identity related to, but also separate from, the identity of the nuclear family. People who have achieved a high level of differentiation will be successful in this transition, and those who have not will experience difficulty establishing a stable sense of identity outside the family. Each person's capacity to develop positive relationships in adulthood is driven by his or her learned patterns of managing family of origin relationships. Understanding the subtle aspects of family relationships may be significant in treatment planning regardless of the family's specific needs. Family systems interventions are generally appropriate when the focus will be on the quality of the nuclear or extended family interpersonal processes and the desire for one or more family members to become more differentiated. A range of problems for which family systems interventions may be appropriate include family problems related to marital fusion, emotional dysfunction in children, a child with a medical problem, college students with adjustment problems, concerns about elderly members, depression, phobias, obsessive compulsive disorder, alcoholism, incest, divorce, and remarriage. More recently, the theory and its interventions have been found useful for issues encountered with traumatized children. Mary Bowen was a member of the first generation of family theorists who emerged in the United States during the 1940s. He was trained in psychodynamic theory, but he shared a concern with his peers, including Nathan Ackerman, John Bell, Don Jackson, and Carl Whitaker, that existing practices were not adequate to treat certain disorders, such as schizophrenia. The field of psychoanalysis was slow to recognize the importance of family dynamics on individual functioning. Freud had never involved families in treatment, but Alfred Adler stressed the importance of family constellations, including birth order and sibling rivalry, on personality formation. Harry Stack Sullivan believed that the role of the family during one's transition to adolescence was especially significant. Bowen's other influence was general systems theory. This way of thinking, so central to the social work profession today, challenged prevailing attitudes in science at the time that complex phenomena could be broken down into series of simpler cause and effect relations. Systems theory argued instead for a circular causality, in which all elements of a system simultaneously are influenced by and influence each other. Systems theory had existed since at least the late 1800s, when economist Herbert Spencer formulated his revolutionary perspective on society. Its concept found practical applications in the new science of information technology in the early 20th century, spurred by observation of the workings of the telegraph, telephone, and other inventions. The new field of cybernetics focused on the analysis of the flow of information in electronic, mechanical, and biological systems. The basic principles of systems theory now seem rather simple, but they were once quite innovative in the helping profession. One of these is the connectedness, the principle that all parts of a system are interconnected, and changes in one part will influence the function of all other parts. A second principle is wholeness, the idea that any phenomenon can be understood only by viewing the entire system. Finally, the feedback principle states that a system's behavior affects its external environment, and that environment affects the system. Bowen began his family research in 1948 at the Menninger Clinic in Kansas. He observed the interactions of mothers and their children with schizophrenia, hoping to gain a better understanding of their symbiosis. In psychology, the term refers to a relationship in which the attachment is so intense that physical or emotional separation compromises each party's ability to function. Bowen concluded that the type of family anxiety that results in one member's developing schizophrenia required 3 generations to unfold. In his sample, the first generation's parents were relatively mature, but the child acquired their combined immaturity, manifested as anxiety and fusion, similar to symbiosis. The same process repeated in the next generation produced sufficient emotional fusion for schizophrenia to develop. Bowen's work was helpful to family theorists in understanding the manner in which anxiety can be passed down through generations. Bowen felt that it was important for one's reasoning ability to develop so that it could keep emotional experience from becoming the only basis on which decisions are made. One of Bowen's greatest contributions to the field of family theory was his principle that individual personalities and patterns of interaction among family members have their origin in previous generations. Additionally, he demonstrated that external family relationships might be as important to personal development as nuclear family relationships. Bowen recommended a 3-generation assessment of families, partly because of realistic limits on the availability of information, and also because of his early career work with families. Bowen's work of that time was helpful to family therapists in understanding the manner in which anxiety can be passed down through generations. The social worker does not need information about 3 generations to effectively provide family interventions. Family structures are more diverse and fragmented today than they have ever been. It is always important to acquire as much information as possible about nuclear, extended, and cross-generation family relationships. Healthy or adaptive individual functioning is characterized by differentiation of self. This is a key concept in family systems theory that has 2 meanings. First, It represents a person's capacity to distinguish between and balance his or her thinking and feeling selves. Both aspects of experience are important. Emotional processes provide important information about the significance of the situation. The total human experience involves both emotion and reason. The term differentiation also refers to the ability of an individual to physically differentiate from his or her family of origin in a manner that preserves aspects of those emotional ties while not being constrained by them. Differentiation is thus a characteristic not of a person, but of a relationship. The person develops the capacity to maintain a balance in being able to separate self and maintaining old and new emotional ties. More differentiated persons experience more intimate relationships with their parents. Higher levels of differentiation even have an effect on one's response to physical illness. Highly charged emotional interactions can cloud a person's ability to appropriately separate his or her feelings from those of others and to have an independent existence. Bowen felt that it was important for one's reasoning ability to develop so that it can keep emotional experiences from becoming the only basis on which decisions are made. In family systems theory, the interpersonal triangle is the primary unit of analysis. All intimate relationships are inherently unstable. They require the availability of a third party to maintain their stability. The price of intimacy in any relationship is the experience of occasional conflict. People cannot exist in harmony all the time. When in conflict, people usually rely on a third person or different third persons, depending on the circumstances, for mediation, ventilation, or problem-solving assistance. Serious problems related to one's differentiation may develop, however, when he or she is drawn into certain types of triangles within the family. When a weaker, undifferentiated person is drawn into a triangle in a way that does not facilitate the original two persons' resolution of their conflict, the person may be deprived of the opportunity to become a unique individual. He or she may assume the ongoing role of helping the other two persons avoid their problems with each other. Problematic triangulation in families occur when conflicted adults draw in weaker family members, often the children, to maintain the stability of their relationships. Anxiety is an unpleasant but normal and functional effect that provides people with warning signs for perceived threats. Its symptoms include tension and nervous system hyperactivity. An anxiety-producing situation may be perceived as an opportunity for growth or as a threat to well-being. Family systems possess levels of anxieties just as individuals do. The nuclear family emotional system includes four relationship patterns that may foster problem development. With marital conflict, each spouse projects his or her anxiety onto the other and attempts to control the other. With the problematic emotional functioning of one spouse, the other spouse makes accommodations to preserve relationship harmony, but may develop heightened anxiety as a result. A family system that is characterized by psychological tension for any of the above reasons may produce an atmosphere of anxiety that is shared by all members. This system anxiety can be passed on and increase through generations. An individual who is not differentiated experiences relatively high levels of tension in family relationships and will tend to be drawn to friends, spouses, and partners with similar levels of anxiety. Psychological defenses are processes by which people protect themselves from intolerable anxiety by keeping unacceptable impulses out of their awareness. Defenses are positive coping mechanisms when they help the person function effectively and do not significantly distort reality. Projection is a common defense mechanism in which one person attributes to someone else his or her unacceptable thoughts and feelings. Projection may involve significant distortions of others' feelings, attitudes, and behaviors. Parents often use the projection defense with their children as targets because children are vulnerable family members. Emotional cutoff is an instinctual process between generations. It deals with the ways people separate themselves from the past in order to start their lives in the present generation. Cutoff may be manifested in physical distance, internal distance, or a combination of both. While emotional cutoff may be natural and healthy, emotional fusion is the opposite of differentiation. It is a shared state involving two or more people, the result of a triangulation, in which one member sacrifices his or her striving towards differentiation in the service of balancing the relationship of two other people. People tend not to have insight into the fact that they are fused, but they experience high levels of emotional reactivity to the other person and may attempt to extricate themselves from the relationship. Emotional cutoff is the result of a person's inability to directly resolve issues of fusion, which in turn prevents him or her from forming a unique identity or a satisfying relationship with others. Emotional cutoff is often seen in the physical distance. This may represent a normal family transition. However, when distance alone is seen as a solution to ongoing family tensions, the person may be disappointed. Bowen believed that sibling position within a nuclear family is a partial predictor of a child's personality development. Many other variables are considered, including gender, number of years between siblings, innate temperaments, and the nature of external environments. Still, being alert to the different triangulation possibilities for each sibling is useful in assessing family systems. Societal emotional processes are the manner in which social systems can be conceptualized as analogous to those of the family with regards to the rules that govern interpersonal behavior within and among them. Family systems concepts may be helpful for understanding these other systems. The nature of problems and change. The nature of change involves an opening up of the family system. Presenting problems may be quite varied, but represent difficulties related to triangles, fusion, and emotional cutoffs. These emotional processes may be manifested either by too much or too little investment in family activities among some or all members. Change requires detriangulation and new alliance building among members of the nuclear and extended family. The social worker attends to the following goals. 1. Lowering the anxiety present in the family system, increasing the reflective capacity of insight of all members. 2. Promoting differentiation of the self by emotionally realigning the family system, which includes identifying and adjusting symptomatic triangles and opening up cutoff relationships. 3. Instilling member sensitivity to the influence of multi-generational family patterns on their present interactions. 4. Improving the family's ability to share the systemic concerns with each other. And 5, readdressing inequalities within the family by inhibiting members who are behaving in inappropriately dominant ways. Like ego psychology, the theory offers broad intervention strategies with which the social worker can design techniques in accordance with a family's particular concerns. Assessment and intervention, the social worker-client relationship. Family members must experience the intervention setting as safe, comfortable, and relatively free of the anxiety that tends to characterize their natural environment. The social worker acts as a coach. The practitioner strives to be the focus of the family's attention and to set the tone of their exchanges. He or she must be calm, promote an unheated atmosphere, and maintain professional detachment. The purposes of this posture are to avoid emotional reactivity and negative triangulation with family members. Assessment and intervention, the genogram. A major tool for both assessment and intervention are the multi-generational genogram. This is a visual representation on one sheet of paper of a family's composition, structure, member characteristics, and relationships. It typically covers a span of 3 generations. Information provided on a genogram includes basic facts about family members such as date of birth and death, marriages, moves, and illnesses, the primary characteristics and level of functioning of each member, education, occupation, health status, talents, successes, and failures, and relationship patterns among members, closeness, conflicts, and cutoffs. The advantage of the genogram as an assessment tool is its presentation of complex family data on one page. It is also an excellent means of eliciting family medical information. Assessment and intervention, the genogram. By participating in the construction of a genogram, family members gain insight into their family processes. They learn about interpersonal patterns and how triangles operate within the family. With these insights, family members learn to recognize that their behavior is related to larger system processes and the ways in which those processes support or inhibit member functioning. The genogram often stimulates a process of life review among older adults. It is important to understand that, in the first session, genogram constructions engages all family members in the discussion and usually offers a new way for them to think about their family system. Assessment and intervention, de-triangulation. This represents any strategy by which the practitioner disrupts one triangle and opens up the family members to new, more functional alliances or triangles. There are many ways in which the social worker can de-triangulate the family. He or she can shift alliances with tasks to be performed within the session or when members are at home. Within the session, the social worker might encourage role reversals or situations in which members interact with each other in different ways. When a couple triangulates a child with a child as a means of avoiding issues in their relationships, might be instructed to spend a certain amount of time together talking about whatever it is on their minds that day. The practitioner should always encourage the development of new attachments that have the possibility of promoting a member's differentiation. Assessment and intervention, increasing insight. Family systems theory holds that understanding can lead to change. The social worker facilitates reflective discussions that promote insight about the effects of relationships on one's personality and behavior. Two techniques that promote insight are person situation reflection, focus on the present, and developmental reflection focus on the history of the family and its pattern. With the first technique, the social worker makes comments, asks questions, and offers tentative explanations that promote the family member's reflective capacity. The social worker assumes a moderately directive stance and provides a here and now interpretation of behavior. The technique improves the family member's capacity to evaluate feelings and attitudes, understand each other and the nature of their behavior, and consider a range of problem-solving options. With developmental reflection, the social worker uses comments, questions, and tentative explanations to explore connections between the family's present and past patterns of behavior. Assessment and intervention, education. Families often benefit from understanding that their patterns of interactions have sources in the family history, and that improving family lives may involve going backward to revisit relationships with various extended family members. This helps family members feel less confused and guilty about their behaviors in teaching families about family system processes. The social worker helps each member to observe the self within triangles and to examine behavior in terms of family themes. Assessment and intervention, working with individuals. One of the strengths of family systems theories is its utility for working with any subset of a family, or even with individual clients. Family systems intervention requires an awareness, but not necessarily the presence of all family members. The social worker can help the client develop insight and use this knowledge of the effects of family relationship to disrupt the repetitions of unsatisfactory relationship patterns with others. Assessment and intervention, endings in family emotional systems theory. A review of the major concepts, however, suggests some methods for determining an appropriate ending point. Several family assessment instruments are suitable as measures of change. The genogram can be redrawn with the family at intervals to see if desired changes are occurring, or the family can be asked at intake to draw two genograms, one as they see themselves and the other as they wish themselves to be. Because insight is important for lasting change, a family's ability to accurately articulate its relationship patterns, potential problem areas, and options for creating change is significant. If a family develops and sustains a constructive shared understanding of its system dynamics, the social worker and family may decide to end the intervention. Spirituality and family emotional systems theory. The family is the major source of meaning development for all people. Shared spirituality in family life might be seen in religious activities, community service activities, and how the members perceive appropriate ways to support each other's personal and social development. For these reasons, family systems intervention can and should incorporate topics about spirituality, understood as the shared meanings that members develop about the purpose of their lives, both apart and together. Emotional connections among family members are often tied to issues of meaning and purpose. During intervention, the social worker should encourage family members to discuss such topics when they arise. As family members strive towards differentiation, they may develop different spiritual perspectives from their significant others, and when these concerns are not addressed, the possibility of emotional cutoffs may increase. Attention to social justice issues. As a system perspective, it encourages a social worker to consider external events that might be affecting family cohesion. Ego psychology focused on individual object relations, focused on relationships, and family systems theory considers the entire multi-generational family and also its social content. Evidence of effectiveness. Bowen did not believe that empirical study was an appropriate way to determine the usefulness of his theory. He believed that such methods overlooked its richness in focusing on limited variables. Further, he believed that what people say they do is not always the same as what they do. So he did not put great faith in standardized clinical self-report measures. Family systems theorists emphasize research on process rather than outcome, and on single cases or small samples. Criticism of the theory. Family systems theory has been criticized for two related reasons. First, it has not adequately attended to variations in how men and women experience differentiation and fusion. The theory has incorporated a male bias in its valuing of reasons over emotions and prioritization of separation over connection. Second, even with its attention to societal emotional processes, the theory has not been sufficiently contextual in its identification of males as the dominant cultural group and their uses of power in the family system. Summary. It is an appropriate guide to assessment and intervention that focus on the quality of nuclear and extended family relationships and the desire for members to become differentiated. The theory provides a useful means of working on issues related to boundaries, enmeshment, and emotional distance. Family systems theory interventions require that the client, whether an individual or a family, have the capacity to interact in an atmosphere of relative calm and be able to reflect on relationships. There must be a relatively stable family structure, that the majority of the members are not in crisis. Classroom activities. Number 1, role play. A single mother, divorced 2 years ago, has ongoing conflicts with her ex-spouse and is also having troubles letting go of supportive 19-year-old daughter who is moving towards independence in a normal way. 2 other children, aged 14 and 10, are in the household. All the children live with their mother. Focus on the intervention on helping the mother to appropriately let go. Classroom activity number 2, role play. An individual adult client is troubled by his inability to risk intimacy, however you define it, in relationships with significant others. The assessment indicates that this person was the hero child in a family in which the father was an alcoholic abuser. Homework assignment. Think about your own family of origin and try to identify 1 or 2 examples of relationship patterns that characterize that system. How did these develop and when? Another homework activity that you may entertain would be to review the video on Bowenian therapy demonstration. Check the link and review the film.